So this week I found myself wanting to watch a bad movie. On the 4th of July, I did my regular viewing of Jaws, and I thought to myself, what about all of those Jaws-inspired films? And leading into wanting to watch a bad movie, that led me to the best Jaws ripoff, according to Stephen Spielberg himself, 1978's Piranha. This is a movie that leads us into Roger Corman territory. Roger Corman produced a lot of the early movies of the class of Hollywood that came out of the 70s. Some of the, all-time directors like Scorsese and even people like Ron Howard. He didn't produce any Steven Spielberg movies because Steven Spielberg got his start actually with the studios. But Steven Spielberg, being of that class, and a lot of his director friends of the time getting their early movies produced by Roger Corman, led to an admiration and respect of Roger Corman. And Roger Corman is known for producing low-budget movies, giving them a small budget, but basically letting them do what they want with the films. And this leads us to director Joe Dante directing Piranha. And Joe Dante would go on to direct movies like Gremlins, The Howling, Inner Space, The Burbs, some seminal movie moments of the 1980s. He would even team up with Stephen Spielberg as his producer for some of those movies. John Sayles, and John Sayles is not a huge well-known director and doesn't have any huge blockbuster movies, but he is known as a writer and a director of some independent, critically acclaimed films, like the movie Lone Star, the critically acclaimed baseball movie 8 Men Out. He also did the movies Secret of Roan Inish, Passion Fish, and City of Hope. And he has a small part in the movie Piranha as well. And Piranha stars Bradford Dillman in the lead character of Paul Grogan, a sort of man who is at adrift in life, an alcoholic after he gets back from the Vietnam War. And Heather Menzies, who plays Maggie, who is like that steadfast woman of the 70s who is like a skip tracer in the movie trying to find a missing young couple. It also has Keenan Wynn in it, Kevin McCarthy, Joe Dante's favorite Dick Miller. We have Barbara Steele. And for soap opera fans, you have an early role of Melody Thomas Scott. So in Piranha, you have Maggie and Paul, who is unwillingly roped into going along with Maggie to try to find this young missing couple. They go to a former military facility, and she accidentally releases water from a retaining pool into the river water. And unbeknownst to her, that water contained government-engineered special piranha. And that's why it's sitting there in the United States instead of the waters of Brazil. And that's where this differs a little bit from Jaws, is it's not a shark movie. It's river fish and deadly piranha that are killing people. And yes, the story is basic as that. They accidentally release these fish into the water, and it is them warning the local people of the impending doom, including a children's summer camp, which Paul's daughter is at, and a newly opened summer resort where a lot of parishioners are at, and it is all centered around the lake and river resort area and camp area. And it's trying to get to these places and warn them and get them to believe them before a massacre happened. And going with Piranha's legacy of having people that would go on to become huge directors after making this movie is Piranha 2 is actually directed by James Cameron. And for the similarities in this movie and Jaws, Universal Pictures was actually going to sue the makers of Piranha until Stephen Spielberg stepped in and he saw it and he convinced Universal Pictures not to go through with the lawsuit to try to get this movie not to come out. He has a really soft spot for the movie Piranha and has said, like I said in the beginning, that it is his favorite of the Jaws ripoff movies. He sees it more of an homage to Jaws than a ripoff. And yes, this movie falls into the B movie category, but it's very competently made. It actually has a decent storyline. It actually has decent acting in it, and it's a fun watch. If you have a soft spot for B movies, and very well made B movies at that, Piranha should be on your list to watch if you've never seen it. The actors in it are actually, none of them are big stars. Some of them are past their prime and they were big stars earlier, but they're all really good in it for the material that it is. Another thing is it's competently directed. It actually looks good also, and that's probably due to Joe Dante. And you really see watching this, his later movies, his style developing from this movie. When you see it, it reminds you of Gremlins and The Burbs. So it's a decently made, fun to watch B movie. And it's a B movie that did rather well at the box office too. It was made for around $600,000 and it made over $14 million at the box office. So Roger Corman more than made his money back for this movie. And it did receive mixed reviews and a lot of criticism for making children really the center of a lot of the victims with its children's camp storyline where Paul's daughter was. Roger Ebert mocked its special effects and the silly points of where characters would jump into the water knowing that piranha were there and going to eat them. But other critics said there was a certain charm about the movie as well, and Variety said that the movie is not without its exciting moments, which was really kind of high praise for a B movie. Charles Champlin, at the time he wrote for the LA Times, actually called Piranha a swift, efficient program picture, which squeezes the most out of its dollars to squeeze delicious chills out of its audience. So like I said, high praise for a B movie. The movie Piranha is also filmed largely in the state of Texas, with a little Southern California locations sort of peppered in there, but mainly in Texas. The big Aqua Arena complex at the end of the movie that gets attacked by the piranha is actually the Aqua Arena Center in San Marcos, Texas. So if you're looking for some fun, non-serious B-movie summer fare, Piranha is a movie that you should look into watching. It's B-movie all the way, but competently made, throwing some aspect of Joe Dante and John Sayles making this movie to give you some, later they'll become real movie makers. But Piranha is a fun movie to watch. And light summer fun fare, who wouldn't want to watch that, especially these days? So thank you for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, consider giving me a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel. And I want to thank you all for getting me to 1,000 subscribers. But if you don't know me, my name is Stacia and I am just a person on the internet that likes to talk about movies. And if you're like me and a big fan of movies and like to talk about movies, this might be the channel for you. But I love you all. See you next time. Bye.